Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO.
We hope you're enjoying your weekend, and as always, we appreciate you making Missoula Real Estate Today a part of it here on News Talk KGVO. You know, even though he was with us just back in April, we have pretty much a whole new agenda to go over with Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the City of Missoula. Good morning, Jeremy. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, good morning, Danny.
You were with us about 2.5 months ago. Let's just start with a refresher on the duties for which the Public Works Director is responsible.
Yeah, Public Works is responsible for all the city utilities, water, sewer, and stormwater, as well as the street division, and we also manage the city cemetery.
And one thing we did talk about back in April was the Russell Street project, and there have been certainly some updates on that. I wanted to congratulate you on a ribbon-cutting ceremony the other day. How did that go?
Yeah, we buttoned up the project, cut the ribbon on the new Russell Street Bridge, and that segment of the project is now complete. That's the end of a 2-year, $29 million project that really makes a big improvement for that corridor.
Yeah, it sure does. I don't know what, if any. I'm sure you've had some feedback at this point. What are people telling you about the project?
Well, mostly good, I think. I think people are happy to see the construction done. I really appreciate everybody's patience. It takes a long time to do a project like that. And,
right.
People dealt with all the traffic control and everything for a long time. But, it's really a model project for us. We've got it's a collaboration of local, state, and federal agencies. And it's a project that really accommodates a lot of different uses. It's really focused on moving people, and it's more than just cars. There's transit facilities, there's bike facilities, and really nice sidewalks now. So it's a model project for us.
Yeah. And I don't know if this has ever come up. I guess I'd never given it much thought, and maybe this doesn't fall under your umbrella. But somebody asked me the other day, said, "Hey, has the city ever looked at extending Russell Street, making it access to Interstate 90?" And I said, "Well, I don't know that that's practical with everything that's there, but I'm interviewing a guy in the Public Works department there. I guess I could ask him."
Yeah, it sure makes sense long term. It's an expensive project to get over the railroad tracks, but when you look at the map, it makes sense that having a new connection all the way up to the interstate would really help with circulation. So it is in our long range plans, and it's something that as we're working through our long-range transportation plan update this year, it'll get a closer look.
All right. Good news. I'll let that person know. Have there been any changes in the ways you've had to conduct business, you personally or the department, the last few months, of course, with coronavirus and lately a spike in cases, still a huge part of day-to-day lives? Is that still affecting you?
Yeah, for sure. It's still a moving playing field, and we're adapting as we go. We're back probably 50 to 75% in the office, but still have quite a few people working from home. We're just kind of trying to reduce the numbers in the office. And then our field folks are still being real careful to maintain social distancing. We're requiring masks where we can't do that. And, the latest outbreaks, we're watching those real closely and keeping our contingency plans up to date to know what we will do if we have to quarantine people or send people home.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest is Jeremy Keene, the Public Works Director for the City of Missoula. Jeremy, let's follow that up with something we did not talk about last time, wastewater COVID testing. How and why is that being done? What it might detect and all, and what's involved there?
Yeah, this is really interesting. It's something we've been working on with the Missoula County Health Department and the University of Montana. We did some trial testing back in May, and basically what you do is you take a 24-hour sample of the sewer effluent that's coming into the plant, and that can be run through a lab to detect whether there's a virus. And so what this tells us is whether or not there's virus active in the community. And so it doesn't necessarily tell you who's infected, but it can give you a good measure of whether you have a trend of a further outbreak or whether things are trending in the right direction. So it's something we're going to continue to do. Right now, we're looking at working with the University of Montana to test the sewage twice a week to just monitor what's happening in the community. And when we tested in May, our results were very low. They didn't actually detect any COVID. And that was consistent with the very low number of cases that we had at that time. So we still have pretty low numbers in the community, but testing could be a really good early warning for greater community spread.
And if some were detected using that method, what would that tell you that maybe you have to do in terms of getting the word out to the public or advising people? What do you hope to accomplish with it if something is detected?
Well, I think it's just another piece of data for the health department to use to decide what kinds of guidance they want to give. And so if we did start to see things spiking, it would be information that we could let people know we need to, increase our stay at home or reduce social contact more than what we're doing right now. So, again, it's kind of an early warning thing. The university is looking at testing specifically for the campus so that they can do the same thing with students on campus to get some early warnings.
Right. Do you have to do a lot of testing to, get what you would consider an accurate or reliable sample?
Well, it's an aggregate sample over 24 hours, so you're basically sampling, throughout the day to get an average. And smarter people than me know how to do this, but it's a way of just creating a baseline to track what's happening. And like I said, it doesn't tell you who's infected, but it can certainly just give you a reading on what's happening in the greater community.
Right. Let's move on to the Public Works Facility Plan. I know this is something you wanted to discuss. What is the Public Works Facility Plan, its key components, and who's the driving force behind all of that?
Yeah, so we're just taking a look at our Public Works maintenance and operations facilities. And right now we have multiple facilities located throughout the city, which creates some duplication and inefficiencies. So the purpose of the plan is to take a look at what are our space needs and long-term needs for both office and yard space and maintenance facilities, and then look at ways that we can consolidate our operations into one space where we can have better utilization. And we're also working with some potential partners around this where we think we may be able to co-locate with other city departments or even other agencies who do similar things. And so an example of that would be Parks Department. They run a lot of similar equipment. Mountain Line has need for maintenance space and bus fueling and wash down. Even the Department of Transportation, we've had some really good conversations with them about co-locating at a common site. So the facility plan will take a look at where we're at now and what land we have that we could potentially consolidate into one space. And we're taking a real hard look at the Scott Street site where we currently have our city street department and city shop site.
Yeah, my first reaction is, man, you're talking about a mega facility there, but maybe once you consolidate, it's not as big as it sounds in my head, maybe.
Well, when we add up all the space we're using right now, we're using something like 20 acres. And so trying to get that into one space and use it more efficiently, we think we can reduce the size we'll need. And then, if you are able to co-locate with some other folks, you're not building those facilities twice. Some of these things are really expensive when you do wash stations or fueling stations. All that equipment is expensive. And so if we can find a way to cost share on that and use it together, that could be a real benefit for both the city and these other agencies.
Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest is Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the city of Missoula. Jeremy, when you say there is a pavement condition survey, how is information for that being gathered and how will that information be used?
Yeah, this is something that we've been working on for a while. It's part of a broader strategy that is really centered around this idea of results-based management, and we're incorporating that into our budget process. It's a data-driven approach that we try to establish measurable goals and be able to evaluate performance. And that all starts with a strategic framework and work plans, and then budgets, and finally implementation. So the pavement condition survey is looking specifically at our road and transportation infrastructure, which is really one of the city's biggest assets. We've ballparked that around, it's something like $1.6 billion, billion with a B. That's the size of the asset that we have in our streets if we had to replace all of that. Okay. So the pavement condition survey is really a way of identifying how we're going to maintain that asset. So what they do is they go out, they've got a fancy truck that comes out with lasers and video and radar, and they actually drive every street in town, and they measure all the cracks, all the potholes, and it produces a big database that tells us what the condition of all the pavement is. So it's a real systematic approach that once we have all that data, we can look at what the appropriate maintenance treatments are to extend the life of that pavement.
Wow. So a pothole could be a heck of a lot more than a pothole, I guess, is what you're telling me, huh?
Yeah. Well, what we know about pavement is that it costs 4 to 5 times more to rehabilitate pavement that's in poor condition than it does to do preventative maintenance. And so the way this works is it creates the software basically grades all of your streets, gives you a score, from 0 to 100, just kind of like a report card, and then that lets you identify the treatments and costs to maintain a certain level of service. So a score of 71, a C is considered satisfactory. And that's kind of the level where we want to keep our pavement at that 71 or above. When it starts to drop below that, you get into this critical area where you either have to get your maintenance done right away, or you start to fall into those poor categories where your costs really start to escalate. So the good news on this survey is that our average in the city is 72. So our streets are in relatively good shape. That may not always seem like it, but But on the whole, we have pavement that's in pretty good shape, and so it really makes sense for us to be proactively maintaining that.
That was going to be my next question. You mentioned 71 is you don't want to be below that, and we score 72, so pretty close. I'm sure you'd like to see that number a little higher. At the same time, I got to believe that, well, if you get up to a 75, or if we get up to an 80, what that's going to cost us, right? You still got to keep an eye to the budget.
Exactly. You have to balance what you can spend with what your desired results are. So if we targeted all of our pavement to be at 90, we're going to have to spend a lot more money. So we'll choose, what we'll do here in the budget process is we'll choose a targeted pavement assessment value that we want to try to achieve. So we may choose 75 or something like that as our target, and then we'll budget appropriately to maintain that number.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the City of Missoula. Jeremy, one of the hotly contested, if you will, and more talked about issues on the June ballot, the local option fuel tax. Your thoughts on the outcome and what will be the end result of that?
Yeah, this is one of the ways that we're working on trying to create some funding mechanisms for that kind of maintenance I was just talking about. We did pass, the voters did pass a local option fuel tax. It was a very close vote. Certainly, appreciate the support and appreciate that not everybody supported it. So we've got some high expectations with how we use that money and use it well. But basically what it is that it's a 2-cent countywide tax on gas, not diesel. And it's expected to raise about $1.1 million annually. That'll get split 50-50 between the city and county. And then there's a small 1% credit back to the retailers for their administration of this new fee.
And when will that go into effect, or is it already in effect?
So we're working through the logistics on that. We anticipate that will go into effect sometime in September.
And you did mention, obviously, there's going to be pros and cons, and you're going to hear about both. Where were you getting opposition to the tax, and from where were you getting the support for it?
Well, for the average driver, it's going to cost about $11 a year. But where we heard a lot of feedback about this was folks that have to drive further than average. So people that are coming from out of town or have to drive longer distances, they're going to feel that impact a little bit more. And that reflected in the voting. It was pretty strongly supported within the urban area where people maybe don't drive as much, and people in the rural areas felt like it was going to impact them more and didn't support the tax.
Yeah, sounds like pretty natural reactions there. One of the things you had listed that you wanted to talk about today, the transportation CIP process. You'll have to take me by the hand and pull me out of the dark a little bit about that. What does that stand for, and what does it entail?
Yeah, our CIP is our capital improvement program, and in fact, we've sort of rebranded that this year as our community investment program, because that's really how we want to look at it. Basically, what we're doing is looking at transportation projects. Of course, you always have more projects and needs than you can fund, so this is a way of going through and figuring out how you want to prioritize those projects. And what we're really doing here is we're prioritizing how we spend our local transportation dollars. So that's primarily gas taxes and our transportation impact fees. And in the past, what happened was we had multiple projects and programs competing for the same funding, but we didn't really have a good way to compare the merits and benefits of those projects head to head. And so what we're looking at this year is a combined process that lets us look at different types of projects together against a common set of criteria that reflect our plans and our broader city strategic priorities. So this will be part of the budget process, and we're working through that right now. We have a list of projects that's 87 projects long, and we have to prioritize those down to the top 10 that we might be able to actually do, and maybe 20 projects that'll be in kind of a 5-year timeline. And so what we're doing with ranking these is we're looking at a set of criteria that are based on things like plan conformity. Are these projects already included in approved planning documents? We want to look at things like connectivity and access. Does the project provide a missing transportation link or connect you to other transportation facilities? Does it provide access to things like schools and hospitals and parks, important commercial destinations, grocery stores, pharmacies, things like that? And then we're putting a real high emphasis on safety and equity. So safety, looking at known safety concerns, crash histories, things like that. And equity, really looking at areas that are underserved. We have, areas that are experiencing development pressure or that are missing infrastructure that have not seen investment in that infrastructure for a long time. And we have a number of neighborhoods where that's the case. Mm-hmm.
Can you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then we have. The last two things we're thinking about are just more time elements. Is the project ready? Has the planning and feasibility work been done? Is there engineering work done? And leverage. Are there opportunities for other private investment or other funding like grants or combining utility work or maintenance work with that project?
Can you cite any examples at this point, Jeremy? Are there any projects that you've identified as high priority or urgent or something that we should probably tackle in the real near future? Well,
we're certainly looking at our sidewalk network. That's something that we've been emphasizing for a long time. That the lack of sidewalks tends to lead to people not wanting to walk and get around other ways. So we're trying to really make sure that those sidewalk networks, especially the primary routes, those key routes where people are most likely to want to walk or to be able to access things like the bus. So we're looking at those areas like where we're really missing that infrastructure, and also we're just looking at our collector and arterial roads that aren't complete streets, that haven't had the full build out of sidewalks, curb and gutter, good drainage, all the things that we want to see in an urban street.
Right.
So an example of that is South Avenue between Reserve Street out to Fort Missoula. We created this new regional park out there. South Avenue is not up to par for having all of those facilities to really make that a good connection out to the new park.
Hey, I wanted to say thanks to some of Diane Beck's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today every weekend here on News Talk KGVO. Rob Fleming of Man Mortgage, Miles Link from Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett with MakeItMissoula.com. We're visiting with Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the city of Missoula. This one affects pretty much everybody. Jeremy, the current water main replacement projects, what's going on now and what's on the upcoming schedule for that?
Yeah, we're still working on all the old water mains that we have around town. Our goal is to be replacing 1% to 2% of our pipes each year. So that kind of corresponds to a 50 to 100 year life. And a lot of our pipes are at that age or beyond. Yeah. And so leakage is a major issue for us. We estimated last year that the water main replacement work that we did reduced our leakage by 1.2 million gallons a day. So for perspective, that's the equivalent of 2 Olympic swimming pools every day.
Wow.
And leak detection is a real challenge in Missoula because we have such porous soils that we often don't see those leaks. They don't come to the surface. So identifying where those leaks are can be a challenge, and we're using some different techniques to find those, including listening. We're setting up a database to listen at all of the fire hydrants, where you can basically attach a listening device, and you can hear the noise of water running, and by creating a baseline for that, we can figure out where we're seeing new leaks and where there's more water running than it should be.
Have you had a chance to headphone up and hear that?
I personally haven't, but got a great picture of a guy standing on over a fire hydrant with his headphones on.
Yeah. Probably think he's in broadcasting like me there. Besides age, you mentioned, the 50 to 100 year range and some of the things you're doing to address the problems. Other methods to determine when it's time to do projects like that, or is it just basically the age tells you, it's time, and now we can hear a leak here and there too?
Yeah, we're listening for leaks and we're looking for other evidence, but a lot of it is just the age of the pipe and the material that was used. So we know how long certain pipe materials are going to last before they start to fail, and so we're identifying which pipes are at that point and need to be focused on, and a lot of the priority it's driven by sometimes it's driven by other things besides just the water pipe itself. Because we have so many pipes that need to be replaced, what we're trying to do is pair those projects up with other work that needs to be done. So when we have a street project that needs work, we're prioritizing the water main replacement at the same time. And so a good example of that is the work that's going on right now on 3rd Street. That was a 1914 water main. The street also was in poor shape, and we had some curb and sidewalk work that needed to be done. So we combined that water project with a maintenance project for the street, and so they'll get the water main done, and then we'll get a brand new street when it's all done. And so that's a good way to create some better efficiency in the way we spend the money, and hopefully reduce the amount of inconvenience for people while we're doing that work, because we won't have to come back later and tear up the street again.
Wow. Does that amaze you, being in the profession as a public works director? Do you look at that and go, my goodness, how did it last since 1914?
Yeah, a lot of stuff we designed for has, a 20 or a 30 or 50-year life expectancy. And so when you get 100 years out of it, you're pretty happy. But it's also sort of a reflection of the fact that we haven't kept up with replacing our infrastructure and managing those assets. And for a lot of cities, it's just a bigger, deeper hole that's getting dug every year that it gets harder and harder to climb out of it. So you got to pick a way out of it, every year. Otherwise, you just fall behind.
Wow. Yeah. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate and our guest, Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the City of Missoula. Jeremy, the Higgins Avenue Bridge project that's underway, that is not a City of Missoula project. I think it's important that people know that, because people probably just assume that it is, but I'm sure that you still, you're keeping an eye on that and the progress, and you're interested in what's being involved in there. And I just thought it might be good to clarify that with you.
Yeah, Higgins is like Russell Street or Madison before that. It's a Montana Department of Transportation project, but the city is a close partner in that. And on projects like Higgins, we actually put money into the project, so we're co-funding the project, but MDT is really leading that effort. And this is another big project. It's going to be a major effort. They're going to rehabilitate the bridge deck and replace the railings, and we're going to get some widened, much nicer walkways over that bridge. There'll also be some work done on the end of the bridge. We're calling it the Hip Strip Plaza, but it's right down there at 3rd Street where there's kind of a no man's land there that is going to get cleaned up and really become a really nice amenity for that block. And we're excited about the project. It's going to be a big improvement when it's all done. It's going to they're anticipating starting in October, and it's about, I think, a 1.5 year long project. So it's could be another long, inconvenient project, but we'll get it done, and then it'll be good for another 50 years.
Well, you have again done a wonderful job being on the show. Did I miss anything? Any other projects going on or scheduled to happen that you'd like people to know about at this time? Well,
one of the other things that I think we're real excited about is a new website that we've stood up called Engage Missoula. Just go to engagemissoula.com. And this is our effort to really try to communicate what we're doing better, offer a place for dialogue and comment on the projects we're working on. And we really want people to feel engaged in what's going on in Missoula. And so encourage people to check that out. There's already about a dozen projects on there that people can look at and comment on. So it's just another way we're trying to provide good public outreach.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up here, if folks are interested in finding out more about Public Works Director or what's going on in the city of Missoula, besides engagemissoula.com, that sounds interesting. I'm definitely going to get on that when we get off the show here. Any other ways to contact you or get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find my contact information on the city website. That's just ci.missoula.mt.us. And I'm in the Public Works Department, and my information is located there. And we have, on that Public Works page, we have information about all of our current and ongoing projects. And, we always welcome input. One of our goals at Public Works is to be responsive to people's requests. When people call us, you'll get a call back. If you send us an email, you'll get an email back, and we'll do our very best to respond to whatever the concerns are that you're bringing up.
Jeremy Keene, Public Works Director for the City of Missoula on Missoula Real Estate Today. And I hope we can get another update out of you in the next 2 or 3 months. Great job, Jeremy.
Absolutely. Good to be on.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. We hope you found this morning's information to be helpful. Any questions about buying or selling? Contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com or visit her website, homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.